What's up, Notjust developers? Welcome back to a new live stream, and today we have something very exciting for you, something very special for me and for the whole our Notjust development community. Today we are giving a new life to one of the most successful tutorials that we had on the channel, and today we're gonna update it because it has been more than 2 years when we did that clone, and a lot of things have changed, a lot of things have improved, and today we're gonna do that. We're gonna update our WhatsApp clone using React Native. Let me know if you watched this clone. Let me know in the live chat, because it's very successful on YouTube. It's almost at 1 million subscribers. I mean, not almost, but in that ballpark numbers. And a lot of people enjoyed that. And for that reason, I decided that we have to give it an update. We have to show it with a new version of React Native, with a new version of Expo, and also with a new version of AWS Amplify. There are a lot of new things, and a lot of things are being done differently. So let's see what exactly we're gonna build today in this tutorial. In this tutorial, we will start from the main screen of WhatsApp, which is the chat screen. And this is gonna be a list of chats that you have in the application. After that, when you press on one of these chats, we will open the chat room, and here we will be able to make a conversation with that person. We see a list of messages. The messages have very nice style, and also they are different if it's my message or if it's their message. So we're gonna cover all of that in today's tutorial. And also we're gonna work on the input box that will allow us to send new messages. So this by building this project, it's a great opportunity to learn React Native with Expo, to brush off your JavaScript knowledge, to work with front-end technologies, with React navigation and other important libraries. And in the next weeks, we're gonna take it to the next level. We're gonna implement the backend side, and then we will learn about AWS Amplify, AppSync, GraphQL, and a lot of other exciting stuff on that end. But for this week, we are going to focus on the front end. And if you're new on this channel, hello, my name is Vadim. I'm a full stack developer, and I'm coming from more of a startup environment, and I really love to build applications, and I really love to share these applications with the world. Nowadays, I'm helping you become full stack mobile developers, and I'm sharing my knowledge and experience here with you on YouTube. So if you enjoy that, and if you are on the path of becoming a mobile developer, make sure to subscribe to the channel not to miss our future videos. And I think with that being said, we can get started, because we have a lot of things to do today. All right. So guys, how is it going? I see a lot of people are joining us live. That's very exciting. This is the difference between the first project and this one, because the first time we did WhatsApp clone, this channel had less than 1,000 subscribers. And what a journey, man, what a journey so far. So before we get started with the actual code, I want to showcase what prerequisites do you need, and all the prerequisites, including the step-by-step guide that we're gonna use with a lot of code snippets in order to make your life easier, to follow along, and to make sure that you are building this application as well. Together with the asset bundle, with dummy data and other important stuff, you will find at assets.notjust.dev/WhatsApp2. WhatsApp2, very important. This is our second WhatsApp clone, but this is the updated version. We're doing this October 14th, 2022. So with this task list, as I said, we're gonna use it very closely. So you need this task list, and make sure to get it from this URL. You can find the URL in the description as well. And Momo will paste it in the live chat so that you can grab it easily. Let me also open up the let's open our guide, because that's where we will have all our next steps. So here it should be. I received it on my email, and if I put it like this, we should see our WhatsApp 2.0 guide that will include, if we scroll down, we have here a task board, and this task board will help us move along the project. And I created basically a whole course in this guide, so definitely check it out. I added here a lot of extra things and information that maybe we will not have time to go into depth in this live stream, but it's a great opportunity to look and check like how everything is created in this application. So with that being said, I think we can get started, and our first task is to initialize the project. But before that, I really want to see how is everyone in the live chat. Where are you joining us from? And another question, were you subscribed? Is there anyone who were subscribed 2 years ago when we first did the WhatsApp clone? I'm really curious about that. All right. Let me know also if you managed to get the guide and if we already can start working, just in order not to let anyone behind. Okay. Let's go. Let's do the poll. Hey Vadim from Lithuania, I'm following you from zero, bro. Thank you very much. Best Electric, definitely, I remember you. Probably not from zero, because when I was at zero, everyone who was watching my streams were in the same room, in the same house with me. So, from Poland, I'm ready to go. France, Ethiopia, I subscribed 1 year ago. Yes, let's go. Building React Native CLI. We're gonna use Expo for this project, but there is no issue of building this application with React Native CLI if you have the environment set up. Because at the end of the day, developing an application with React Native and Expo nowadays, going with Expo, you are not giving up on anything, but vice versa, you're gaining a lot of improvements in developer experience. Come on, Vadim, you can talk. Hi, Norok, hello. Okay, so I see that a lot of people are ready, so we can get started, and we're gonna stop from time to time to when we're gonna have to wait to talk with a live chat, because we are almost at 100. Let's see if we can reach 100 today. So guys, to get started, let's open a terminal. And today I'm gonna use the PC of Alexandra, because mine is too slow and I didn't want to risk having a bad experience during the live stream. So let's see, hopefully her PC is set up and we're not gonna get in any troubles. But the first step is to, of course, open a terminal, navigate to where you want to initialize the project. I'm gonna go here, and after that, using npx create Expo app, and then specifying the name of our application, which is gonna be WhatsApp. Using this command, we will initialize our React Native project using Expo. This is the new way of initializing Expo applications. Instead of using the global Expo CLI, we are using npx to get the most up-to-date Expo version and bootstrap a new project with it. So we're gonna wait probably 1 minute until everything is installed in terms of JavaScript and our dependencies. And after that, we're gonna be able to run the application. Use Firebase for one project. We can give it a try for one project, definitely. Can you build some Flutter apps? I don't know. I don't know if I want to, because if I definitely can, but so after we see your project is ready, that means that our application is initialized, and now we can close the terminal and we can open our editor of choice. And in my case, that's gonna be Visual Studio Code. Come on, Visual Studio Code. Here we have it. Let's zoom in a bit so everyone can see properly. Come on. Probably like this. And from here, let's open a directory. Let's go here, WhatsApp, and let's open it up. Once it's open, let's open a terminal by going at the top here, terminal, new terminal, or if you have, if you know the shortcut, that's perfect. From the terminal, what we have to do is first we have to start the development server. And for that, we're gonna run npm start. Hopefully you can see it properly here. npm start. Will this live be uploaded after the live stream? Yes, this live stream will be uploaded after the live stream. And after we have run our development server, before Expo was opening a browser window, but that is already not available. They removed that. And from now on, we have to interact with our development server from our terminal from here. Well, the experience is not that user-friendly as the one from the browser, but it's definitely possible. And once you get used to it, you don't see the difference. So from here, we can press A if we want to open the application on Android. We can press I if we want to open it on iOS, or if you don't have a simulator or emulator installed on your machine, then you can simply install Expo Go application on your physical device and come here and scan this QR code, and the application will run directly on your physical device without having to run any simulators. For me, I'm gonna run it on iOS by pressing I here, just for us to see it here on the screen. So let's open it up like this. Perfect. Watching live from Kenya. Hello, Alex. And once the application ran on our simulator, we see that open up app.js to start working on the application. That's good. That means that our application successfully built and run on the emulator. And the next step is to test if everything is actually working properly. For that, let's open app.js, which is our entry point in our application. This is where everything starts. And from here, let's go ahead and replace this text with a hello world. Of course, that's the first step that we have to do. Save, and once we save the file, it automatically updates on the iOS emulator, and we see the updated text here. That means that our setup is, everything is okay, and we are ready to move to the next step. So let me go ahead and open our board. And by the way, you can also duplicate this board on your page and track the progress of your tasks. You can move it from here to progress, but I'm gonna use it from here. So initializing the project, we are done with that. Check out some information about debugging if you are new to React Native. All right, so the next step is to actually start developing some components. Well, in React Native, and whenever we are building huge application in general, the rule of thumb is to look at the whole application and think in smaller components. Think how you can break down the UI into small components that can repeat each other, but they are they are atomic and they are understandable in a way to be able to easy to develop them. So what do I mean by that? Let's have a look at our chat screen. And when you look at it from the first time, a lot of things are happening here. And you might think that, oh my God, it's quite complicated. Like, I don't know where to start. But let's break down this UI and see what smaller components or what pieces do we have there in the UI. So at the top, we of course see the header with the title chats, a couple of buttons on the right and on the left. After that, we have a list of chats, and on the bottom we have a bottom tab bar with multiple tabs. Okay, we're not gonna focus on the header on the bottom tab bar for now because that's gonna come a bit later in the tutorial, but let's look at the list of chats. The list of chats, that's the main content on this page, is created out of multiple chat list items. So basically all of these rows, they are one reusable component that will receive different data, and based on that data, it will render this information on the screen. But what it renders, it will remain the same. It will be an image, it will be a text, it will be another text on the right, and so on. So with that being said, we now can start working from the lowest, from the smallest component, and we're gonna move up until we build the whole screen. So as I said, the smallest component on this page that I see is the chat list item, which renders one list item here in this list. So let's go ahead in our task board here to open the UI2 task, chat list items. And here we see the more information, what we have to render. Right, so to start working on the chat list item component, we're gonna have to create a new file and store. Firstly, we have to create a place where we will store all our components. Usually I like to store all the source code of my application in a folder called src in the root directory here for the source. And inside the source folder, let's go ahead and create another folder for the components. All right, now that we have this components folder, this folder will contain all of the reusable components that we will be able to render on the screen. So let's go ahead and create the first one. And the first one, as we said, is going to be chat list item. And this is going to also be a folder because usually we have multiple files inside one component. One of them will be for what should be visible on the screen, another one should be for the styles and so on. For now, it's going to be enough for us if we just simply do an index.js inside this chat list item. And here is the place where we will define the chat list item component. So a component in React and React Native is nothing more than a functional component okay, I'll give me a second. So chat list item, as I said, it's a simple functional component that we declare here using the arrow function syntax, but you can also define it with the function keyword. And what else we should add here in order to make this an actual component is we need to return some JSX. So this JSX is what we want to render on the screen. There are a lot of components that we can import directly from React Native. These are the built-in components from React Native, and one of them is, for example, the text component. So we can right away render here a text, and inside these tags, we're gonna say, I am a chat list item. All right, so the last thing in order to be able to use this component is to export default our chat list item. All right, now that we are exporting from this file the chat list item, let's see how we can use this chat list item to render it on the screen. For that, we're gonna go back to app.js. And the same way as we are importing built-in components from React Native, let's go ahead and import our chat list item from source components chat list item. Now to render it, the only thing that we have to do, I'm gonna remove this hello world. I'm gonna give me some space. And to render it, it's gonna be the same way as we are rendering our built-in components. Open brackets, chat list item, and self-closing tag. And by doing that, we already see here chat list item. And if you're gonna render it 2 times, come on. If you're gonna render it 2 times like this, we will see them multiple times displayed on the screen. So with that being said, we know how to create a custom component, and the next step would be to actually start working on what this component should render. But before that, I want to really say big thanks to Jason. Jason donated and asked, thanks for the tutorial, recommend any good React Native books. Good React Native books. I have them somewhere. There is the React and React Native book by Roy Derks. This one was one of the best books that I skimmed through. Also, Karv Patel, thank you very much for the donation. Any plans to add filter sorting feature by name and by date? I'm planning to add a lot of features to this build after we cover the basics. And features can be group chatting, they can be sending audio messages, images, and so on. Filter sorting, we could do that if people are interested, but I expect your ideas, guys, in the comments below this video. What do you want us to build in the next episodes for this project? Because it's gonna be probably 3 to 4 episodes build. Is there a difference between the previous build and this one? Yes, definitely. There are a lot of differences. One of them from the UI standpoint is previous time we recreated the Android user interface. Now we're creating the iOS user interface of WhatsApp, and these two are completely different. Like you will see, maybe in the chat room they have similarities, but on the home screen it's completely different. Navigation is different. And another thing that is different will be the scope. We're gonna try to cover way more. And another important thing, probably the most important thing that is different, is that this one is updated to 2022, so you can follow along and it's gonna be, everything is gonna work. Because in the previous one, a lot of things are outdated and I receive messages that something is already not working, but that's expected because, for example, AWS Amplify transform upgraded to version 2, and from the backend side, it's completely different. Also React Native updated, Expo updated, so a lot of our tools that we are using are updated, and that's why it needs this update. All right, we are at 100. Oh my God, let's go. Thank you very much, guys. Thank you. Can you build it with bare React Native? Let me know what do you think is the difference between bare React Native and Expo. And yeah. So, I think we should continue. Let's have a look at our project here. So, I already did that in the video, but you have also here some information about creating this new file for the chat list item, defining the dummy component, importing it in app.js, rendering it on the screen. And the next step for us is to render the structure of our component, basically the elements that this component is composed of. So, when we look at this component, let's apply the same strategy and let's dissect this UI to try to understand what components we will need. So the purple one is the main container of one chat list item. So this is the main view that we have. Then inside of it, we basically have two columns. The first one is an image, the green one, beautiful Lucas. The second one is the content container, which is the one on the right, also the green box here. Now, the thing is that the content container has other things inside. One of these is the row here on the top with blue, which contains the text with a username and the text for the time. And below this row, we have the text with the last message. Basically, yeah, the text with the last message. That's pretty explanatory. So, as I said, we have a main container with two children, an image in our container. Then we have a row with some text. All right, let's go ahead in our components chat list item index, and let's start developing this component. For that, we will need a view, because view is our container that will hold multiple children. We will need also text and an image. All right, so let me delete this one, because I'm gonna start with a view for our main container. Then we said that inside the view we have an image. The image requires the source property and it requires a URI. Let me give it like this. The URI, in order to make your life easier, you can copy it from here, directly from the guide. Let me paste it here. And at the moment, we're not going to see anything on the screen because we haven't specified the width and height of our image. To be able to see the image, after we specify the source, let's go ahead and specify the style. And for the style, let's simply say that width and height will be 50. We're gonna properly style it in a moment, but for now, I just want to see it on the screen to make sure that it is correctly rendering. Okay, that's good. Now let's move on to the container for our main content of this chat list item. So if we look here, this is the green container that has a row and it has the text here, below. So for the row, we're going to define another view where we'll put two text boxes. One of them will be for the name and another one will be for the time. For example, 8:30 or something like this. Okay, and after this view, after this row, we're gonna put another text here for the last message. Hello there. Okay, so this is our structure for the chat list component. It doesn't look the way we expected because we have to style it. To style this component, let's first of all import the style sheet from React Native, and let's define the styles here below. Styles equal stylesheet.create, and we're gonna create this style object here. We can also do inline styles, but that's not recommended way of creating your components because it's gonna soon get out of hands and your component will be very messy and it will make it very hard to maintain. It's advisable to take them out in separate styles. And for example, for this image, we can define here a style with a name chosen by us, for example, image here, and the properties for the style. For example, width, I'm gonna do width 60, and let's also do height 60. Now, in our JSX here, we can remove the inline style and we can pass here directly styles.image. And by doing that, our image is still displayed here. Perfect. Let's go ahead and attach the styles for every component that we have here, and after that we're gonna define the properties of these styles. For example, starting from the top, we have here a view that we said that is gonna be our main container, so let's call it styles container. Then we have our image. We have here the main contents, and let me just double check to use the same naming as we did here for the styling. Content, I called it content, so let's do styles.content. Then here we have style.row, because we want these two to be displayed in the same row. We have for the name styles.name, and for the time, you know what, let's do a subtitle style, because we can reuse it for both the time and for the message. Subtitle like this. Okay, so now that we attached the styles, nothing changed because we have to still declare them here in our style sheet. So we're gonna start from the top with the container. Then we have our image, then we have our content. Then we have our row, name and subtitle. Okay, with these styles, let's go ahead and start playing with these styles to make sure that our component looks as we want it to look. Where will we start? Let's start with image because we already have something here. So one way, what we want to do is to make this image round. For that, we simply have to send it border radius 30, which is going to be half of our width, and this makes it fully round. Perfect. Now, I want our container to display the items inside it in the same row, because at the moment they are displayed in separate rows, and that's what makes them like on top of each other. But if for the container we're going to say that we want the flex direction to be row, then we're going to see that the image, where is it? Here is our container, and it has two children, the image and this view. And we said that we want them to be side by side, and that's exactly what it did. Now, if we want this content container to expand and take all the space on the screen, all the horizontal space on the screen, we're gonna go to the content here and say that this one should be a flex 1. And by doing that, as we can see, I can add here a background color so you can see it better. Background red. And as you can see, our content expands to fill in the empty space, because without flex 1, it will be as wide as the content inside is. So let's move with this, and background is okay. Now, what else? Well, we need to put this time, the time and the name that are displayed in the same row here. We need to put them in the same actually row, because at the moment they are displayed in separate rows. So for that, let's do the same for our row class here, flex direction row. And we see that name and time are in the same row, but now they are close together. We're going to do the same trick as we did with the content. We're going to pass flex 1 to the name in order to make sure that the name takes all the available space, and will leave only the necessary space for the time here to the right. Okay, what are the other stuff that we want? We need to play a bit with margins and so on. So for the container, we need some margin horizontal, because at the moment it touches the borders of our phone. So if we say margin horizontal 10, that's already better. There is a bit of space between the image and the body here. Now, we also want some margin vertical, because whenever there will be multiple chat list items on our screen, we want some space between them. So let's give margin vertical 5. We're not giving 10 because we have margin vertical from the top item and margin bottom from the top item and margin top from the bottom item. So when you add them up, it's actually the same as the horizontal margin. That's why we need here half of it. Okay, speaking about the spacing, I will also give some margin right 10 to our image to make some space between them. And what else? What else? For this container, I will define a static height, because I saw that's how it is on WhatsApp, and it's gonna help us easier render like 1 or 2 rows of items of text. Sorry. So having this height here, we will also have to to move on with the name, for example. The name, we need it a bit more bold. So let's increase the font weight to bold here. Okay, the name is displayed properly. And for the subtitle, we are gonna display it with a gray color. So we're gonna just simply set color to gray. And that will make both the message and the time grayed out. Let's see if we have everything. So for this row, I think we can add some margin to the bottom in order to have some space between the name and the text line below. So margin bottom 5 will be okay. And what else? Let's see. At the moment, it looks good, but let's also test some edge cases. For example, what happens if there is a lot of text in one of these items? So if I will write a lot of text, save, come on, then we see that the text actually goes from a new line. But if it's gonna be like really long text, it's gonna be like it will always display all the text here. What we want to do is to display maximum 2 lines, and if the text is longer, we're gonna put the 3 dots there. So let's add the number of lines to here, and this will make sure to stop the text after 2 lines and add the 3 dots there. I think that's good for this one. We should also make sure that when the name is very long, it doesn't mess up anything. Well, it goes from a new line. So let's say that this one has number of lines 1, and it will make sure that the name is displayed in one single line. And yeah, I think that's good here as well. Lastly, what we want to do is to add some borders on the bottom. Let me show you the user interface here. So as we can see, below our content here, we have a very thin border, and that looks really nice here. So we will add the border on the content part by doing border bottom width 1 and border bottom color. Let's do light gray. Okay, that's already better, but we can actually give a smaller value than border bottom width 1. And to do that, we can use the style sheet dot hairline width, and this is the smallest width for a border that we can give. And now it looks much better here on the screen. I'm gonna actually remove one of them here. Okay, so I think we are done here with the chat list item. Yes, definitely. Yeah, pretty happy with how it turned out. Let's go ahead. I'm gonna quickly add everything to Git, so we have some chat, or let's do UI to chat list item. Okay. Because we are done with this component, let's go back and we're gonna move on to the next one. And the next one, we're gonna talk a little bit about props. Oh my God, I haven't looked at the concurrent viewers, 132. I think that's a record for us. How is it going, guys? For everyone who are just joining, let me give you a very short brief before we move to the next steps, because today we are doing something very exciting, specifically me, and I hope for our community as well. Because today we are giving an update to one of the most popular tutorials that we have done on this channel, which is the WhatsApp clone. We did that 2 years ago, and a lot of things have been updated from that time. And I decided to give it a fresh new look with a new user interface. This time we are cloning the iOS version of WhatsApp clone. Even though this application will run okay both on Android and on iOS, we're focusing on replicating the iOS UI. So yeah, today we're gonna work on the chat lists to display a list of people who are we chatting with. Then we're gonna move on to the next step with the messages. And lastly, we're gonna handle the sending a message and the input box, and at the end we're gonna put everything together in a navigation system to be able to move from one screen to another. So we already started. You can get the step-by-step guide that we are following here with all the code examples and with all the step-by-step. You can get it by following this URL that you can find in the description. So guys, how is it going? Are you following along? Are you teaching only UI UX, or is it also backend? Yes, it's also backend as well. So today the focus will be to finish the user interface, and next week we're gonna work on the backend side to implement the chatting functionalities with real-time database to be able to exchange messages between users. We're gonna also implement like authentication next time, probably storage. So it's gonna be very exciting. And if you have some extra feature ideas, let me know. I'm interested in trying that as well. Please turn off the night shift. What do you mean night shift? Are the colors weird on you as well? Because for me they are a bit weird, but I thought it's only my monitor. There is something off, like with I don't know what, but there is something off with my screen. All right, so let's not waste a lot of time, because as I said, we have a lot of tasks for today. And the third task for us is properties. So what are they and why do we need them and how to use them? Well, give me just 1 second. Well, properties are the data that a component receives from the outside world. Well, we already saw how we can send properties, for example, to the image component. Here we are sending the source property and the style property. So sending a property is not that complicated, and we can go ahead in the app.js and send the data about the chat list item here as first of all, let's go ahead and copy our data for a chat. I have prepared it here for you. So let's copy it from our data. And let's go ahead and paste it in our app.js at the top, chat like this. Now, having this data in app.js, we want to send it down to a child component. To do that, we are using properties, and we're gonna send it here as chat. Okay. Now, let's go ahead and see how we can receive this data and how we can use it. Going in our components chat list item, we receive properties as the first parameter of our function. And let's call this parameter props. And if we do console log props, and if we open the developer server here, and if I do clear, and if I do refresh, we see that this is the object with the properties. And as you can see, there is a property called chat that is another object. And this way we can send a lot of properties, different type of properties. For example, a boolean like true. We can send a string like hello. And all of them, we will receive them in the props object. Bool, true. Chat is the object, and then string hello. Okay, we don't need them at the moment because we will work only with the chat. This is the data that we need there. So let's go here in our chat list item and see how instead of rendering dummy data, for example, this dummy URL that will render the same URL for every single user. Instead of doing that, let's dynamically render the URL and the name and so on from our properties. Well, we saw that in properties we have this chat object, so let's go ahead and destructure it here using the curly bracket syntax. And we're gonna send the URI here from the chat dot user.image, if I'm not mistaken. And if I look here in app.js, you can look here to see the structure of this data. So we have chat, then .user, then .image. Okay, for the name, we're gonna do chat.user.name. And if you do that, you will see that on the screen, we actually see this chat.user.name. So in order to access JavaScript, JavaScript variables and JavaScript syntax inside our JSX, we need to put this expression in the curly brackets like this. So this is the little portal that gives us access to JavaScript variables. And now the name is actually Lucas as we expected it. Lastly, let's go ahead and do the chat.lastMessage.time. Okay, it's not like this. Last message. Oh, created ad. Dot created ad. And here for the text, we're gonna do chat.lastMessage.text. Okay, and text like this. And everything is looking the same as it was looking before. But the cool thing is that now we can change what our component renders from the outside of this component, without having to know the details of a chat list item, without having to know that it renders an image or it renders a name. Based on the data that we give here, it will render it on our screen. So now if I can change here Lucas123, save, it automatically changes here. And that's not the only thing. The cool thing about props is that it allows us to render list of items and reusing the same component multiple times. Let me double check. Yes, we are done with the props, and we can move on to the next task, which is UI for chat list. So having these props, let me quickly add everything. Props. As I said, having these props, it gives us the possibility to reuse these components and render list of data. So if we want to do it multiple times, we simply will send here different data. So before we start implementing our our list, let's first of all go ahead and create a place for our chat list screen, because this is a separate screen, so we don't want to develop it in our app.js. My recommendation is to always try to keep app.js as clean as possible and only have a global stuff here. Other than that, we need to separate it into specific components for the screens or for the navigation and so on. For now, let's go ahead in the source folder and create a new folder called screens. This is going to be a sibling folder to the components. Now inside the screens, I'm not going to create separate folders for the screens. I'm going to simply create files for these screens. So the first screen is going to be called, how is it called? Chat list or chats? I think I created it as chat screens. So in the screens, new folder, chats with plural. Come on. Chats screens .js. Okay, and here let's initialize with an empty chat screen like this. We don't need the React. And what we're gonna do from the app.js, no, let's from app.js, let's clean a bit. Let's delete the chat list items here. Let's delete this dummy data for the chat. Let's delete the chat list import. And let's actually import our page, because that's what we need to render here, a page. So chat screen, why is it screens? It should be chats screen. Sorry for that, chat screen. Okay. And here chat screen. Perfect. And from the app.js, let's import chat screen. And let's render it here in the container, chat screen as well. Okay, so we see chat screens on the page. All right, now we can close up app.js and move on to the chat screen, because here is where we are going to work and where we will render a list of chat list items. For that, we need some data. The data in the next episode, next week, we're gonna get it from the backend. But for now, in order to simplify the development of our UI, I have prepared for you the asset bundle with the actual data that you need. So the thing is that I think I don't have it here with me, so I'm gonna have to quickly grab it the same way as you did. So let's go ahead in the presentation. Let's open up this URL and let's grab the dummy data, because I don't have it on this computer. Give me just 1 second. Come on. Okay, here we have it, download. So here is the asset bundle that I was talking about. And we have here the assets with data and images. Let's go ahead and open the assets in our project, and let's move data and images folder inside our assets. So assets should have a data folder. The data folder contains two files for the dummy data. For now, we are interested in the chats.json because this is a list of chats that we want to render on the screen. So I have prepared for you a lot of them, so it's gonna look well here. Okay, so let's go ahead and inside our chats screen, let's import our dummy data. Import chats from, we need one component up, another component up, then we go inside assets, we go inside data, and we have chats.json. All right, so this is our data. To render a list of things in React Native, there is a component called flatlist. So let's import it from React Native here. And I think that I'm going to render it as the only component here. Yeah, let me remove a view and the text here, and let's render a flatlist. The flatlist is a self-closing tag, and it requires two properties. It has two required properties. One of them is the data, and the data is our chats, basically an array of data that we want to render on the screen. And the second one is a function called render item, and this function will tell flatlist how it should render every single item from our array. So the function will receive the item, and it should return some JSX of what should be rendered for every single item. Well, we already developed the component that should be rendered there, and it's called chat list item, and it expects the chat property that will be specifically this item that we receive when rendering them. If I put save, probably nothing will change, but what? Reloading. Yeah, something happened there. Let's have a look. Let's open the terminal. Chats. Let's run it again on iOS. What's going on here? I'm gonna stop the server and start it again. Okay, we see something on the screen. Not exactly what we wanted to see, but we see something. So, wait, what happened there? Expo go quit. Okay. In order to see what's happening, let's give some style to this flat list. So wait a second, I think. Oh, no, it's okay. Yeah, let's give some style with, I'm gonna give it inline style just to have a look, with background color red. I want to see how wide is the flat list itself. So as we can see, the flat list is, the flat list is in the middle. To fix that, we can go ahead in app.js and remove this align item center, because this is what makes our flat list be centered, basically. So if I remove, then our flat list will stretch and expand the whole screen by default. Now in the chat screens, I think I can remove this style and it will look good. Another temporary fix that I want to suggest you right now is in the app.js. In the app.js, let's go ahead and add padding vertical 10 pixels for our container, not even 10, I think 50. Yeah, let's do 50. In order to be able to see the items below the notch. If your device doesn't have a notch, you don't have to do this temporary fix. Because later on, we're gonna properly fix it when we integrate our navigation library. So this is just temporary to add some space to the bottom and to the top to be able to see all the items in our list here. And with that being said, I think, yeah, this is how we are using a flat list to render a list of items based on some data. Perfect, but that's not it for this task, because we also want to, we see that in our dummy data, I emulated as close as possible how our data will look like when we will receive it from the backend. And from the backend, we will receive the created at as a date with in this format. Well, rendering this date to a user is not very user-friendly. So for that, we're gonna use a package called day.js that we can install using this command. And it will help us render human-readable dates. So let me go ahead and install it here. npm install day.js. And after that, what we have to do is to go back in our component chat list item. And here where we are rendering the created at, we need to do some changes to this created at. For that, let's import day.js from day.js, and also let's import how is it called? A package that extends day.js to give us possibility to display relative time. Relative time is like 2 days from now or 3 hours ago and so on. So let's import these two things. I mean, we import the relative time from the plugins, and we using days.extend, we're extending using the relative time. Now, the only last step to do is to wrap our created at inside the function day.js. This will transform it to an object that day.js can operate with, and then we can say from now. By doing that, it will give us the relative time, this time relative to the current time. So we see 4 hours ago, 18 hours ago, and so on. If you pass through here, we're gonna get rid of the ago. So it's gonna be just 2 days, 3 days, and so on. And I think in the context where all the dates are in the past, like when you receive the message, you don't need to say ago or from now and so on. So it's better to do it like this. And with that being said, we are done with this task, the chat list, chats list. So let's go ahead and commit everything that we have. Chats list, yes, we have them. Let's do a small break, grab some water, grab some coffee. We are one hour in, but we are doing great. We have finished 4 tasks out of 7, but the next ones are pretty complicated. So we still have a lot of things to do today, but yeah, take a small, take some coffee, take some tea. Come on, mouse. And let's see what people are doing here in the live chat. How are you doing, guys? Following along? Which theme are you using for VS Code? Yes, we have a video for that. And actually, like 30 minutes before the live stream, I was going through that video to set it up on Alex's computer as well, the computer that I'm using right now, just to have it the similar way as I have it. So I also watch my own videos. Okay. Durgesh, probably I missed your message. You teach better than my university professor. Thank you very much. That's my job and that's my passion. And looking back at where we started 2 years ago, I was going through the video that we did back then, and there are so many things that we're doing better right now, together with the board that you can follow along. I'm not sure if you find this useful, the Notion board with all the code snippets in order to be able to follow along. But yeah, like before that, 2 years ago, everything was much more kind of random. I was just building life without a lot of preparation. Okay. Are you by any chance planning to use MobX in any of your project? I haven't planned that, but we can have a look at it. Can we clone this project? The idea is to follow along and to take this project as a learning opportunity. So I provide you with everything in order for you to follow along and build it yourself. So yes, you can do that. So are we done with a little break? Shall we move on to our next tasks? Let's go. We have over 100 people watching and can be more exciting than that. In comparison, 2 years ago, the WhatsApp video had, I think, 6 or 7 people watching live. And then in the next months and years, it accumulated more than 700,000 views, which I still cannot comprehend, like how did that happen and why did people found it useful. But yes, let's go ahead and continue, because our next step is we're gonna actually move on to a new screen. We're gonna move on to the task UI5, and here we're gonna start working on the chat screen, the screen that will display a list of messages when we press on one of these people. So from the UI breakdown, we have a navigation header, which is quite heavy with information and buttons here. Then we have basically a list of messages in this main content of a page, and at the end we have an input box on the bottom where we can create new messages. So let's go ahead and start by creating a new screen for the chat screen. So I'm gonna close everything, and inside our screens we have chat screens. Now let's go ahead and create chat screen, singular chat, one chat. And here, let's generate the empty component like this. And let's go ahead in our app.js and import our chat screen here the similar way as we imported the chat screen. Let's do it like this. Make sure it's singular both here and here. And let's go ahead and replace the chat screen where we are rendering with our chat screen like this. As I said before, don't worry that we are changing the screens like this, because in the next steps, we're going to implement navigation, and this is going to be done dynamically, like on the navigation side. But for now, to make it easier, we're simply swapping the screens that we are rendering in the app component. Now that we see the chat screen here, we can go ahead and move on to the next step. The next step is to render a background image. WhatsApp has a very nice background image texture that is displayed in the chat, and I have prepared it for you in the assets, assets, images, bg.png. So let's go ahead and import it here. Okay. So let's import bg from assets. Then we have images. Then we have bg.png. We saw how to render a normal image. But in this case, we want to render a background image, basically an image that will stay behind some components. For that, React Native has a very nice component called image background, and we can simply replace our view here with our image background. By doing that, everything that is inside of this image background as children will be displayed on top of that image. So let's go ahead and give the source here our background image that we imported. And for the style, let's give it styles.bg for the background. And we need to define the styles using the style sheet const styles dot equal style sheet dot create. And here we will have a bg. Initially, flex 1 will be enough because we want it to be full width of our app component. At the moment, don't pay attention very much at the top and the bottom white things, because as I said, later on we will fix it with navigation. But what we have right now is a very beautiful image displayed in the background, and we see some text displayed on top of it. With that being said, we are done with the background image, and we can move on to our message component. Because this page is heavily based on the messages that we exchange between people. So let's go ahead and create the message component. And then we're gonna, So in the components, let's create a new folder, message, simply message. And here let's do index.js in the message. All right, let's generate the empty component here for the message. And as we said, we're gonna receive a message through the properties, and we can right away render it in that text box there. So as I said, we're gonna receive a message object through the properties. So we can go ahead and render the message.text inside our text here. With this basic message component, we can go back in our chat screen, and we can render, first of all, import a message, and we can render them here. We will render them using a flat list because this is a list of messages. So flat list, let's import it from there. And the data for our messages is also provided in the assets data messages here. So it has ID, it has text, it has when it was sent, and it has the user that sent that message. So let's go ahead and import the dummy data for our messages from assets, data, and then we have messages.json. Now, instead of this text box here, we're gonna render a flat list. The flat list, as you remember, expects two required properties: data, which is gonna be our messages, and a render item. The render item is the function that specifies how every item from our array should be rendered. So for every item, for every message in our array here, we want to render a message component and send there the data about that message. By doing that, we already see a lot of text on the screen, and it's also scrollable. Perfect. Now it's going to be time to style it. But I think before moving on, look, I'm gonna give some style to this flat list. Style. It's gonna be styles.list. And what I want to give here for this list is some padding 10. All right, to give some spacing around. And another thing that I want to mention while we are here is the way we're gonna receive messages. In a group, there might be hundreds and thousands of messages. When we will query them the newest message on the top, and then we will query, like, I don't know, 20 messages, right? Because we want the most recent messages. So because the most recent messages is the first item here, it makes sense to, and we see here, how are you, Lucas? I should be the latest message. So in a chat message, the latest message that you see, you expect it to see on the bottom of the screen, because the list is kinda inverted. With flat list, that's very easy to do. We can simply pass inverted property to the flat list, and it reverses the list. Now the first item from our data is on the bottom here. I should be the last message. Oh no, you didn't see the emulator. You didn't see the emulator. Did you miss a lot of things? Probably only the emulator you didn't see, because the code, you saw everything. Yes, the code you saw, only the emulator was missing. But yeah, you didn't miss a lot. It's only the background image and our text messages on top here were seen. Yeah, thank you very much, guys, for mentioning it out. Here we have it. Momo, is everything okay? Like, should we move on? Or did we miss a lot of things? A question: what is your main boilerplate now? Expo or React Native plus Expo update? Now, every time when I start like a project for myself, I started with Expo, because like Expo went a very long way in the last years, and they provide so many valuable features, and it makes everything so much easier. So yeah, like most of the times I'm using Expo nowadays. And to be fully transparent, Expo is not sponsoring us. They are not paying anything. So this is purely my own experience. Yeah, I see that it's okay, so we can move on. So as I said, like just by passing this inverted property to the flat list, we basically invert the list, and the latest items are on the bottom and the older one are on the top, and we will have to scroll to see them. Awesome. So I think we are good here. and we need to go back to our message here and we need to start styling it. So to style our message, yeah, let's go ahead and grab a style sheet. Let's define the styles here using stylesheet.create. And here, come on, stylesheet.create. And we will have two things there. No, actually we will have one more text box here for the message.time. Message.time, not time, but created at. And we will actually have to do the same approach as we did before, but for the created at. But yeah, give me a second because right now it's a mess. Like we will work a bit on the styles and then we will fix the created at. So let's go ahead and give a style to our container, which is going to be styles.container. And to our text, we don't need a style for our text. We only need a style for our time because we want to make it gray. So styles.time. All right, here we're going to have our container and we're going to have our time. For the time, it's pretty self-explanatory. We're going to send color gray like this. And also we can use a line self property to say that we want this time to always float on the right side of a message. So if I do flex end, then the times will always be on the right side. Okay. We can go ahead and if we are still talking about the time, let's go ahead and properly format this time. For that, I'm going to check our components chat list item. I'm going to import these three lines, days.js, relative time, and days.just.extend. In our message here, okay, like this, we don't need React. And we are going to wrap this message.createdAt in the day.js like this. And after that, we can do from now and true because we don't need the ago. 11 days, 11 days, 4 days, 4 days. Perfect. Awesome. All right, now let's play a bit with our container. Hey, the Verbal Remedy. Thank you very much for the donation. Hey, great content, Vadim. More than chat apps, I think it would be much more current to build out more content on video calling beyond Vox implant stuff. Yes, this is definitely something that I'm looking forward to do, either with some SDKs or like completely from scratch. But I really love SDKs, and specifically for complex stuff like video calling, it makes a lot of sense to use something that is already built. I mean, to integrate. But there are some other approaches that I want to mess up with and to see how they go and to test them in real world before recommending them to you. But yeah, maybe that's gonna be our WhatsApp clone. We're gonna do like we're gonna extend it with voice and video calling features. Let's see. All right, so as I said, our container. For the container, let's start with a background color, background color white. And let's do like all of them will be background color white. Later on, we'll have to adjust the color depending on whether this is our message or not. But yeah, like before that, we can start playing with some spacings, for example, margin 5 to give some space between these messages. Perfect. What else? We need some internal spacing. So with padding 10, we can add it there. And also we need to make the corners a bit more round. So for that, border radius, we're gonna have 10. All right, that's good. Now let's, if we are designing the message from another person, we see that the message actually doesn't go all the way to the right. It's around like 80% of the screen. So for that reason, let's give this container a width of 80%. With a 80%. With 80%. Okay, with 80%. Actually, I don't want with 80% because this is our maximum width. In case where our messages are smaller, the boxes themselves should become a bit smaller. So for that reason, this should be max width 80%. But it still doesn't work as I expect it to work. And let me think. Yeah, because we want to add an align self property, and we want to specify where we want this to align, to the start or to the end. This is to the end, and this will be our messages, but for their messages it should be start here. So this is how the message box looks right now. But as I said, like not all these messages are coming from the person who I'm chatting with. Some of them are coming from me. So those messages we should render on the right and with green background. We should adjust a little bit the styles for them. How do we know which messages are ours and which are not? Well, I have like this ID U1 in every single message. That is my message. So at the moment, we're gonna do some basic conditions to check if it's our message, because in the next step, next week, when we will implement the backend, we will actually test it and check it using the authenticated user. But now let's go ahead and simply define a function that will tell us if it's our message or not. So is my message is going to be a simple function that will return true only if message.user.id is equal to u1, the user that I told you, that I set there the ID in our dummy data. Now, we can conditionally style some of the properties that we have here, and the properties that we want to conditionally style is this one, align self. We want either flex start or flex end, and the background color either white or green. Probably not this kind of green, but you get the idea. So these two properties will not be declared here in the style sheet because they should be defined based on a condition. To do that, let's go ahead and add the second style for this view. To add multiple styles to a view, we simply put them in an array like this. The first one is the styles.container, and the second one will be the styles that we provide here. So this will be our dynamic properties like this. So background color, we're gonna use the function is my message, and if is my message, it's gonna be green, otherwise it's gonna be white. Okay, we already see something, and the same with the second property. Is my message, we're gonna do it flex end, otherwise flex start. Flex. Okay, this is good. Let me quickly grab the proper color. It's this one. You can also find it in the guide. And now we see that all the messages that are sent by us are displayed on the right, and they are also have like a different background color, and all the messages that are sent by the other people are displayed to the left. So as easy as that, we have a simple and nice message component that we are using to render in our chats screen. Awesome. I love it. Let's double check if we have everything, but I think we do. We properly render the time. Max width 80, yes, perfect. Yes, we are done with this task. And it was quite easy to implement. Let's go ahead and commit everything. Chat screen is done. All in one, thank you very much. All right, I see a very good recommendation of a task to display this where, let me find them. Chat lists, no, chat screens. To display, yeah, yesterday or the day before and so on. This is a very good one, and actually I'm going to add it to the Notion as bonus ideas. And if you have other ideas like this, feel free. Well, I need to note it down somewhere, but I don't have my computer. So one of the ideas is to display the to display a new day label in the chat screen. Yes, we can do that, definitely. But our next step will be our input box container, the whole input box here. I've been user subscribed for a long time. I even participate in your Squid Game context. Yes, I remember you all in. Definitely. Also the little cloud advent. Oh, the cloud advent. The cloud advent, like, if I understand you correctly, you mean like this tick, yeah, that displays. Well, that's interesting because it's only renders on the last element, which is not very hard to determine. But yeah, like I would have to play with some SVGs or simply to display kind of a background behind. I don't know. What if we add some shadows to these boxes? Do they have on WhatsApp? I don't understand. Maybe, yeah. Yeah, I think we have. So to generate shadows, like I always use the shadow generator. And you can provide like the depth. It should be quite small. And we can copy this code from here and add it to our container here if you want some shadows. Yeah, kinda looks good. I really like it. Maybe the depth should be even smaller, like 1. Let's see. Come on. This is for our shadows. Yeah, perfect. I really love it. Such a small thing, but such a big difference. Shadows. Also, not to forget to add the shadows in the guide. Awesome. So, are we ready to move to the next step? The screen looks yellowish. It's so bad. Like, I don't know how to fix it at this moment, and I'm not gonna even try it, but I really thought it's only for me, like what I see. Oh, what if an image is messaged? Regarding the images, we're gonna handle this probably in an extra episode for handling like media messages, which are images, videos, sound, audio messages, and what else? Yeah, like emojis. We can see how to do that in a special episode. So let's go ahead with the next task, which is our input box. And if we look at this input box and try to break it down, it's pretty simple. We have one icon on the left, which is this plus icon. Then we have a text input in the middle with an icon and the send button, which is also kind of an icon. So let's go ahead and start implementing it. For that, we're going to create a new component input box where we will put everything. Let me close everything. And in the components, let's create a new folder input box. And in the input box, let's do the index.js. Now here, I'm going to define the dummy component. It's going to be called input box. And we having this input box, we can go in our screens, chat screen. And after we have our flat list, at the bottom, we want to display the input box. Make sure that it automatically imported it from our components here. Now we see at the bottom here of the page, the input box that we declared here. Perfect. Let's move on to the input box and start rendering what we have to do there. So let's move on. Yeah, we render it in the input box, and we should start rendering the elements inside this. So we have an icon, we have a text input, and we have another icon there. Okay, we can do that. So for the view, let me actually right away define the style sheet, because it's easier to name the components when you write them. So for that, I just simply have to have this styles object here, not to get undefined options. Now this view will have styles.container. Then we have, as I said, we have one icon for the plus sign. Then we have a text input. And then we have another icon at the end. We don't need this text box. For the icons, we are going to use Expo icons. And if you want to check Expo vector icons, you can check them on this URL. I'm going to also add it in the guide, because I forgot to give you this URL. And here is where you will find a lot of icons. I already have prepared them for you, and we will use some icons from, I think it's from the material icons and also end design. Let's do end design from I don't know where Alex has another type of keyboard and I don't know where is the @ sign. So expo/vector icons. And besides design, I said we also need the material community icons. Material, not community, material icons, simply. Okay, perfect. So for the first icon, we will use the design type using the name plus. We need to specify a size, and that's going to be 24 initially, and a color. For the color, we can use a color from React Native that is defined, and it's called royal blue, and it looks similar to the blue that WhatsApp is using there. A royal blue like this. Save? Yeah, it looks good there. For the second icon, we're gonna use the material icons, and for the name, we have send. For the size, we also have 24 initially. Color. The color here is gonna be white because the background will be blue. If we look at the design here, the color of icon is white. Now let's close these material icons. And yes, we have it there. In between them, we need a text input. The text input, there is a component text input in React Native. So let's import it from React Native and let's render it here as text input. Okay, we don't see much, but if you provide here a placeholder, like type your message, then we should be able to see it very like with a small font here, type your message, and we will be able to actually start typing the message. All right, that's good, but we will have to work a bit with this text input. For example, let's give it some styles, styles.input, and also for this button, which is going to be style.send. Okay, so we have three components to style: the container, then we have an input, and lastly we have a send button. Awesome. For the container, we want to render everything in the same row. So flex direction row, we start with that. Now we want the text input from the middle, this one, to take the whole available space and to leave only the necessary space for the plus, for the icons on the sides. So for the input, I'm gonna say that it's a flex 1. Flex 1. Now our button is pushed all the way there. Let's continue. So as we see here, the background of the container is kind of a grayish, and the background of the input is white. So let's do that. For the container, let's do background color white smoke. That's very close color to that one. Let's add some padding if we are here, because without it, it looks bad. And that's okay for now. Now for the input itself. For the input, we said that the background color should be white. Yes, we see something there. I'm not sure how to make it a bit more visible for you. I cannot. Yeah, hopefully you're following along and you can see it better on your device, because here it's very small. I'll try to do it like this. And you should see here the input itself. Let's start with some spacing. For example, some padding definitely it will need, padding 5 at least. Border radius. We will do border radius 50 to make it kind of round. And we will need a bit more padding. Like if you look here, we need a bit more padding horizontal than vertical. So padding horizontal will be 10. That's already good. What else? What else? If we look here, we see that it has a very small border. So let's go ahead and add this border using border color, probably light gray. And for the border width, we're gonna use again the stylesheet.hairline width to have a very thin border around it. Yeah, that looks already better. I don't know, we can play with backgrounds here as well, but I think that's already good. We need to add some spacing around the icons and the text input because they are touching right now. So some social distancing. Let's do margin horizontal 10 to, yeah, now we see some spacing here, we see some spacing here. Should we increase the padding horizontal here to also be 10? Padding horizontal 10. Yeah, now it looks better. Okay, so having this one here, we can style our send button. For the send button, we can start with background color royal blue to see it already there, because we're gonna work with the container of this button mainly to style it. We need to add some spacing, so let's do padding, I don't know, 5, 7 will be okay. And we need to make this round, so border radius like 10 or 15. If we give it, we'll see that nothing changes. Because sometimes, specifically for this icon, we need to specify that we want everything that overflows our container to be hidden. Because at the moment, we basically define this container, but at the end of the day, it's visible, so we don't see this border radius for the container itself. So if I put hidden, now it's better, but I think I will have to decrease a bit the sizes to 16, and here, I don't know, 20, the plus sign. Maybe that's good, but I also want to add to the container align items center to center the plus sign horizontally with the input box. And now that's, I'm pretty happy with how it turned out right now. You can go ahead and increase the font size of our input. If you feel that it's too small, you can increase it to 16. But for me, I think I will leave it as it is by default. Yes, like this. Okay. What else? What else? Give me a second. Okay, yeah. So our input is displayed here on the bottom, but you'll see if you're working on a physical device, you'll see that whenever you press on this input, your phone will open the keyboard, and then you will not be able to see the input because it's going to be below the keyboard. On a simulator here, I'm pressing Command K to toggle the keyboard, or you can also do it from IO here keyboard and toggle software keyboard, like this. So how do we solve this issue of having views underneath the keyboard? For that, we need to use a keyboard avoiding view. And I have it here. Yeah. Let's go in the chat screen where we're displaying the whole screen. And let's make sure that the view that we are displaying our list and also our input box is inside the keyboard avoiding view that will make sure to close whenever we open, to adjust the size whenever we open the keyboard. So for that, I'm gonna copy the keyboard avoiding view from here. Let's move to our chat screen. And we are gonna wrap the image background with this keyboard avoiding view. Let's make sure that we are closing it at the bottom. And also we need to import it from React Native, like this. We don't need this too. And just by having that, now if I'm gonna open them, the keyboard, the whole page chat screen will shrink in size in order to take into consideration this keyboard, and now we will see the input right away there. Okay. Whew. This should work on Android as well, but by the end of that tutorial, we're gonna mess with it a little bit more after adding our navigation. So if right now is not looking perfect, wait a bit until the end of the tutorial. We're gonna come back to the keyboard avoiding view to make sure it works both on Android and iOS as expected, together with navigation. Right now, it should be good, as we can see. All right, so, oh my God, we have 125 users watching live. And we are almost 2 hours in, but we have managed to build a lot of things today. The last step when it comes to the user input here is to actually manage the user input. Because at the moment we write a message, and when we press on this button, in the next episode, we're gonna have to send this information to the backend in order to send the message to that person. At the moment, let's at least define the structure of this button that will be called every time we press on this send icon. So going to the input box, we're going to define a function called onSend, const onSend. This is going to be an arrow function. And inside this, let's simply console warn something, sending a new message. I like to add a console warn to events in order to test them if they are actually triggered. Because right now, if I'm gonna press, I don't see any console warn. That means that we are not done yet. We need to bind this onSend event to the onPress event on the material icons component. These icons expect an onPress event where we can send a function that will be called whenever the user presses on that icon. So here we can press on this icon and we see sending a new message. Yes, it's working as we expect. Okay, but when we will send a new message, we actually want to know what message we are sending, because we want to send this message to the backend next time. How do we get the text that the user is typing here? At the moment, there is no way to do that. But for that, we have state. State is another way to manage data inside a component. Basically, we have two data that drives a component, props and state. We already saw that props are the data that is coming from the outside of a component, and they will always remain the same, while state is the data that is declared and managed inside the component, and this data, state data, and this data will is intended to be changed. It's intended to be dynamic. The thing is that whenever we change the state value, our user interface will update automatically. And how does that happen is whenever a state variable changes, React will actually re-render the whole component with all of its children to make sure that it is displaying the most updated state value. Let's have a look at how we can work with state. For that, we're gonna import a simple hook called useState from React. Now using this useState, we can define the state value that will hold the data about the text that the user is writing in the input box. So here, let's do, how did I name it? New message, then set new message. I'm going to explain in a moment what all of this means. Set new message is equal to the hook use state. And here, let's initialize it with the empty string. So what did we just do? Using the useState hook, we declared a state variable, we initialized it with an empty string, and useState will give us an array of 2 values. We are right away destructuring these values and saving them into our constants. The first value that the useState gives us is the value of our state, basically the actual value. The second one is a function, is a setter function that we use to update the state. So we never update it directly, we always update using the setter. Now having this state variable, we can go ahead and send to the text input through props the value. What should be the value? The value should be the new message. Nothing will change, but if you provide here hello as the default value, you're going to see it in the state. If you're going to try to update it at the moment, it will jump back to hello because we are never updating the state variable. To update the state variable, we're going to listen to the onChange text event of a text input, and every time the text input updates, we're going to update the message in the state. And now we are able to write, and this data is saved in the new message state here. I can go ahead and remove it from here. Now, what's cool is that whenever we press on the button, we have access to the new message, and we're gonna know what message we have to send. Another cool thing is that after we press on send, we probably want to clear the input and make it ready for the next message. So we can set new message to an empty string, basically resetting the state variable. Now we can say hello. I will press on this button and we see the log sending a new message. Hello. How are you? Sending a new message. How are you? So as you can see, this is how we work with state. This is how we bind the state value to a text input by sending the value and also listening for an update and updating the state value this way. And also how we attach callback function to onPress event, and we are using the state variable var. All right, so that was state in a very quick amount of time. I hope it makes sense. You can read more in the documentation that I provided you here. So yes, that's everything with the input box, as you can see. Oh my God, that's amazing. So let's go ahead and commit everything. It's going to be UI what? UI 6. UI 6 input box. Perfect. How is it going, guys? Are you following along? Are you going to do MongoDB as a backend with Socket.io? For this project, no, we're not going to do MongoDB. For this project, we're going to use Amplify, AWS. Did you do the voice Gru in the Minions movie? I don't know, I don't think so. My voice is already cracking because for 2 hours I'm talking. Yes, there is a VS Code extension to commit, but I mostly use the CLI for Git. I don't know, that's how I got used to it, and I feel more comfortable with that. But definitely, like, if you feel more comfortable with a visual interface, you can do it from here. Yep. Okay. So we have only one more step for today to actually implement navigation and to put everything together in a navigation system to be able to navigate from one screen to another. Please insert image and message also. If we're gonna have time today, we might actually work on this feature for the image in the message. Let's add it to the list and we'll see what exactly we're gonna do at the end of the stream. Image, message. All right. So, moving on to the last step, we have our UI navigation. For UI navigation, in React Native, the let's say industry standard is using React Navigation library to handle navigation. Actually, yeah, Expo is working on a new navigation library, and I'm super excited to get into that. But for now, React Navigation is the way to go when it comes to the navigation for React Native. You can find all the documentation here, and it has like very good examples and getting started guides for different types of navigations. With React Navigation, you can implement, like as I said, different types of navigation, including bottom tabs that will contain tabs on the bottom, including drawer navigation that is on the side, basically the hamburger menu. There is also top tab navigator, there is stack navigators, and a lot of other types and ways to implement navigation in your application, depending on the user experience that you want to provide. So for that, let's go ahead and start by installing the dependencies that we will need. And we will need a couple of them because React Navigation likes to keep everything into separate packages to only install the things that you need. So there is the React Navigation Native, which is the core of this library. And then we have like other navigators, a native stack navigator, a bottom tab navigators, that we will need, and other navigators that you might also need. And lastly, we have two other dependencies for React Native Screens and React Native Safe Area Context that are required for the navigation to work. Let's grab this command from here. We can press copy simply here, and let's go ahead and install in our application like this, npx expo install and all the dependencies that we will need. All right, so yeah, we have them installed. Now it's time to start with the basics. One thing to pay attention to remember is that we need to wrap our whole application in a navigation container. So instead of wrapping our app.js with a navigation container, let's keep all the code related to the navigation inside its separate folder navigation here. Let's go ahead and define the index.js. And here, let's do React Native functional export for the navigator, for the main navigator here. Okay, now from our app.js, instead of rendering the screens as we do right now, we're gonna actually render the navigator, and the navigator will take care of what screen should be rendered on the screen. Let's do navigator from source navigation. Navigator, like this. Perfect, we see navigator here, but let's go ahead in the navigation index. I'm gonna close everything else. And we should get started. Well, one of the things that we will need here, for example, to see something on the screen is the chat screen from screens and then chat screen. Yep. So instead of a text, no, actually, yeah. Another thing, yeah, as I said, is that we need to wrap all our screens with the navigation container. This is the first step that we have to do. And we're going to import it from our React Navigation library here on the top. So let's import something from React Navigation. Oh my God. Yeah, it's with @ and I don't know where is it on my keyboard. So I'm going to have to copy it. And we need to import the React Navigation container. Now, having the navigation container and the chat screens, we can remove our view from here and start by rendering the navigation container and inside it the chat screen like this. Save, and we see the chat screen as we were seeing it before. Nothing changed, but that's okay because we still have to implement our navigators. All right, so the next step is to actually define a navigator. The first navigator that we're gonna use is a stack navigator. This is the most basic navigator that we have. And basically in a stack navigator, the way it works is every time we are navigating to a new page, we are basically putting that new page on top of the stack, on top of everything else. And this way we put screens on top of each other, and when we go back, we simply remove the last screen from the stack, and we are left with the previous screen. So yeah, that's where stack word comes from. It's because behind the scenes, this navigator uses a stack data structure to keep track of a path that you want to get to the specific screen. And also it has like some animations for transitioning between screens. You're gonna see it in a moment. To create a stack navigator, we will actually have to import create native stack navigator from, okay, again. So we will, from React Navigation native stack, like this. Now, outside of our component, but also here on the top, let's create this stack using create native stack navigator like this. Now this stack will contain the components that we need to define the navigator and the screens that we want to render on here. So inside the navigation container, I'm going to remove the chat screen because that's not the way we are rendering screens in navigation. We are rendering them inside navigators. So let's start with a stack.navigator that will contain our screens. Now inside this stack navigator, we will have to define our stack.screen. And a stack.screen expects two required properties. One of them is the name. And the name, for example, can be chat. Is it chat? Let me make sure that I'm following the same naming conventions. as we have here in the guide. Yeah, let's start with chats, and the component here is going to be chats screen that we also have to import here. Chats. And the same way, let's define the second stack screen here for the chat, singular, like this. This way, we define two stack screens in our navigator. Though we see only the first one, there is already a way to navigate to the second one. We're gonna see that in a moment, but another way that we can choose which stack screen to render by default is by sending to the navigator the initial route name. And if you send here chat and refresh the application, that's gonna be the initial stack screen that we render. Perfect, I don't need that for now, because the next step is going to be to show you how we can navigate between screens. How we can get from the chats to the chat screen. For that, when should we navigate? Well, whenever we press on one of these list items, we need to navigate to that specific chat. So let's go ahead in our component chat list item. And as I said, whenever we press on this container, on this whole row, we need to navigate. To detect press events, we cannot do that on a view because there is no onPress event. We have to replace it with a pressable component, which is basically a view that also handles press events from the user. Now, by replacing the pressable, make sure that it's replace both at the top and the closing tag as well. By doing that, we can specify the onPress event here, and we can say we need to do something here. Basically, console warn navigate. So if I press here, I see navigate. If I press here, I see navigate. Perfect. But how do we navigate? Well, to navigate, we need access to the navigation object. To get access to the navigation object is pretty straightforward, and we're gonna do that. Let me do it here. We're gonna import a hook called use navigation from React Navigation Native. Now, using this hook at the top of our component, but inside our component here, we can get access to the navigation object. So navigation equal use navigation. Now, having access to the navigation, when we click on the container, we can simply do navigation.navigate, and here we need to provide the name of a screen where we want to navigate. And in our case, that's chat. Just by doing that, when I press on Lucas, I'm redirected to the chat screen, and it automatically adds the back button here on the top. If I press back, we go back, and I can check this way different chat screens. And it will also have like this swipe from the left to go back. It's hard to take it from here, but on the real device, it really works perfectly. Okay, so this is how we navigate from one screen to another. But the idea is that we don't want to redirect to the chat screen just like that, because we also need to send some data. We need to know on what user did we click and what data should we fetch here to display in the chat room. To send data whenever we navigate, we simply pass as the second parameter to the navigate object an object with all our parameters that we want to send. One of these parameters will of course be the ID of a chat room, because using that ID we will be able to fetch the details about the chat room. You might ask, why not sending the whole chat room like this, chat? Well, this is not recommended to send huge objects through navigation, And it's actually recommended to send only identifiers because the chat screen should be responsible for fetching the data. So we send minimal amount of data that will allow us in the chat room to query the rest of the necessary data that we need there. Another thing that I will do here is I will simply send the name, because we want to have, I'm going to show you in a moment a small feature that we can improve just by sending this name. So let's send the name of a user, which is going to be chat.user.name. Okay. Now we saw how we can send data, but on the chat screen, how do we receive this data? Well, let's go ahead and open our screens, chat screen, and let's have a look at how we can receive this data here. To receive the data, we will need access to the route. When we want to navigate, we need to access to the navigation object. When we need information about the current route that we are on, we need access to the route. To get access to the route, we use another hook called useRoute from React Navigation Native, like this. I'm also gonna import the use navigation to show you a little trick. Now let's get access to our route by doing use route. And let's simply console log the route to see what data do we receive there about a specific route. Okay, and if I open the terminal, and if I'm gonna press on someone here, we see this is all the data about the route. We have a key, we have a name, we have parameters, and these parameters is actually what we are interested in. We need the ID and the name of a person. Perfect. So we said that we are interested in the route.params. What can we do with, oh my God. What can we do with the route params? I'm going to replace the name of the page, basically the title of a page. I'm going to replace it with the name of a user. So for that, I can do, I need access to the navigation object. Navigation equal use navigation. And using navigation dot set options, I can set the title using the route. We saw that the parameters are inside params, and the parameter name is the name. So if I'm gonna go to Lucas, the name is Lucas. If I'm gonna go to Vlad, the name is Vlad, and so on. Perfect. We have a warning because we cannot update a component like this. And why it's happening is because we are doing this set option call inside the body of our function, which is actually not very desirable to do. So to fix that, we are going to use a use effect. I'm not gonna get into a lot of details about use effect, but use effect in this situation helps us only call this function once. So if I put it into the use effect like this, and if I specify where this is the function that should be run, and the second parameter is the dependencies. Basically, when should we run this function? Well, we should run this function whenever our route params name changes, because whenever it changes, we need to update it in the navigation set options. And by doing that, we don't have the error anymore, the warning. All right, so now we saw how we can send the data when we navigate using the second parameter as an object. And then to get this data, we use the use route hook to get access to the route information. And in the route information, we have the parameters that were sent here. Perfect. How's it going, guys? Are you following? Guys, enjoy everything so far. Please consider subscribing to the channel, because from the analytics I see that more than 98% of you are not subscribed to the channel. So yeah, I know that YouTube algorithm is very smart and it will push you with videos, but in order not to miss future tutorials that we will publish in the near future, make sure to subscribe and also turn on the notification bell. Thank you very much. I really appreciate that. And back to our coding. Hey, I'm learning React Native for past 1 month, but by watching your clone tutorials. Now I want to make some app that I can share on App Store, but I get no idea. Do you have any tips or ideas? When it comes to, that's a very good idea to start actually building an application and deploying it to the market, because that's gonna be the best way to actually learn and become good at this. When it comes to the ideas, don't focus too much on the idea. Think of a problem that you have day by day and try to implement a solution for that. If you are into gaming, try to make an application with some information about the games with tactics. If you are into fitness, try to make an application that you will use every day that you go to the gym to track your workout. If you are into, I don't know, cryptocurrencies, make a crypto price tracker for you. And by making it for you and by solving your own problems, you're gonna always have ideas, you're gonna always use the application, you're gonna always have ways how to improve it without relying on external users to tell you that something is off or the user experience there is bad. By using it every day yourself, you're gonna see where you can improve, and you're gonna push yourself to learn more about how I can improve that feature, how I can improve this user experience, how can I make this more performant. And if you are solving a problem for yourself, that means that out there are other people similar to you that are encountering the same problems, and they will find this application valuable. So that's the recipe to build an application and to learn by building. And I really encourage you to do so. By the way, thank you for your React Native content. I don't find new tutorials on React Native in the last 1 year. It's a very niche, but yeah, you're welcome, and all the best. So let's move on, because we have a little bit more here. So we implemented a stack navigator. We saw how a stack navigator actually works by moving from one screen to another. I really don't like the colors of my monitor. We implemented the navigation between screens. Okay. Now, the next step is to implement the main tab navigator. And if I'm gonna look here, you can see that on iOS, WhatsApp contains 5 tabs on the bottom of the screen. On Android, that's on the top, but I can show you how you can change where this navigator is displayed. So to render this navigator on the bottom with tabs, there is another navigator called Tab Navigator, doing specifically what it says it does. So let's go ahead and inside our navigation folder, let's create a new file for our, let me double check how I called it, main tab navigator. main tab navigator .js. Inside here, we're gonna have this component main tab navigator, and let's export default main tab navigator. Here we're gonna have to return something, and what we will return, we can look at the index. In the index we have a navigation container, but this navigation container should be only once, so that's why we will not repeat it in our tab navigator. Then we need to actually return the navigator. To create it, we're gonna follow the same steps as we did to create a stack navigator. First, we import a create function from the respective from their package. Then we create that navigator. Then using name.navigator and name.screen, we are defining the navigator and its screens. So let's start by importing create bottom tab navigator from React Navigator and bottom tabs. Then we're gonna define our tab navigator using the create bottom tab navigator. Perfect. Now, as I said, we need to put everything into the tab.navigator, and here we need tab.screen for every single screen in our tab list. Whew. So for the screens, look, I'm gonna go ahead and import them from here, but before that, let's scroll down a bit when we get to the extra, because I have here prepared for you a component that will show a page that is not yet implemented. So we can copy this component from here and go in our screens, and let's create a file not implemented screen.js. Let's paste the code here. It simply is an image with a text, but it will help us differentiate between a proper screen and a screen that is not yet defined. Now I'm gonna go ahead and copy all the screens from here to save a bit of time, because the structure, you already saw it. It's pretty standard. Tab.screen, we need to provide a name, and we need to provide a component, basically a screen that we want to render there. So for all of them are a not implemented screen, except from the chats, because this is our component. And in this situation, it makes sense to give a initial route name chats here, because we want it to initialize, to be active from the beginning. We still don't see anything, because in our main navigator, in our main stack navigator, we are not rendering our tab navigator. Now, it might be a bit weird, but we are going to nest our navigators. Basically, in our stack navigator with a name. What name did I give? Main. Let's do main, home, tabs, home. Let's do home. I'm gonna provide the component, which is our tab navigator. And by doing that, we basically nested a tab navigator inside a stack navigator. And if I'm going to refresh, we see can find variable not implemented, because in the main tab navigator, we need to import not implemented screen from screens not implemented screen. And also we need to import chats screen like this. Let's refresh. And as you can see, at the bottom we have tabs, right? We have when we access the chats here, we see the chats because in the tab navigator, the chats component is this one. The rest are then not implemented component with a little image. But what you might see is two different headers. And that is coming because we nested a navigator, the tab navigator, inside the home navigator. So one of the headers is coming from this screen, and another header is coming from one of these screens that we are rendering here. So what we have to do is we don't need this, the first one, we don't need the home header. So for that reason, I can provide here options, and I can say header shown, false. And just like that, we hid the home header. And we have headers only from the screens inside our tabs. But why did we have to nest it like this? Because when we press on some of these items, we are redirected to the chat screen from our stack navigator. So our chat screen is outside our tab navigator. That's why we don't see the tabs at the bottom. And that's exactly what we wanted to do. Because if you have created the tab navigator as the root navigator, then everywhere in your application you would be able to see the tabs on the bottom here. But because our root navigator is a simple stack navigator that actually doesn't need chats here, it only needs the home page and the chat page. Yeah, when we press on this, we are redirected here. From chat, we are redirected to the chat in the stack navigator. I hope that makes sense. And if that did make sense, we can move on to the next step to play with our icons. Do we get access to the Notion link? Yes, definitely. To get access to the Notion link, follow this URL. You can also find in the description below. And you're gonna receive an email with the Notion guide from here. And you can save some time by not copy pasting tab screens and so on. So speaking about our stack screen, speaking about our icons, one way, the way to customize the icons is by passing the options parameter to our tab.screen, and there we can provide the tab bar icon that is going to be a function, and that function will render anything that you put here in the tab bar icon. So for that reason, let's copy these options, or let me show you, let me write and show you what I mean. Every tab screen has this option parameter, using which we can adjust a lot of things about that specific screen. We already saw how we, simply using the options header shown, we disable the header of one of these screens. Another thing that you can adjust in the navigation is the actual tab bar icon, basically the icon that we want to render on the screen. This tab bar icon is going to be a function that should return something. What it should return, we're going to return these Unicons like this, but we need to import it first. So let's import Unicons from Expo. Come on. Vector icons. Come on, I want to copy it like this. And this function will receive also some parameters, such as the color and also the size. So using this color and size, we see that the first icon is already changed, the status. Because we are getting the color from the parameter, when it is not active, the color of the icon will automatically be gray, and when it is active, it will be based on the tint color. And the way you can adjust this tint color is by passing, if I'm not mistaken, tint, I think it should be screen options here. Screen options, tint, don't remember exactly where you specify, but you have a possibility to specify the tint color that you want to use for your tabs. In the moment, that's the royal blue that I really that I actually need, that is actually used in WhatsApp. So I'm gonna move on with this one. Let's go ahead and copy this options array to all of our components, like this, all our tabs, I mean. And then let's go ahead and change the icons that we need to render. So yeah, logo WhatsApp, call outline. For calls, call outline, then camera outline. iOS chat bubbles. And lastly, we have setting outline. And just like that, we have all our tabs displayed on the screen. Let's see. We can also change the background color of the tab bar, because on WhatsApp, the colors are a bit inverted. Like the header and the bottom tab bar, they are with white smoke, and the main content is with white. So I can provide screen options here to the tab navigator, and these screen options to the tab navigator will contain the tab bar style, which you can use to style anything for the bottom tab bar here, as you can see, and the header style, which you can style the header here. For the header style, I think I'm gonna have to do it also in the stack navigator, screen options. No. But I'm just trying to see how to also change it behind the notch as well. Here, if I'm gonna do red, yes. So that means that I need to do white smoke as the background color in our app.js to have the same color there on top. And for the chat screen, I think chat screen background chat screen here, flat list. Do we have a style here to the flat list? No, we don't. What I want to do here is to provide a style with background color white. Yes, like that. And similar to, yeah, here it's actually good. One last step is actually indeed, like here in the stack navigator, we need to provide the screen options with the header style, background color, just to have it here as well, background color, white smoke. Yes, now we have it here as well. Perfect. Amazing. What's next? What's next? The next is to customize the tab bar. Customizing the tab bar, the header, for example, is possible, and we can do that using also the options parameter. So what do we need to do is in the chats here, we need to have an icon on the right that will specify, that will redirect to a start a new message screen. So for that we can, I'm gonna copy the icon that I have to render, and we can go ahead and we're gonna put it on the chats screen. So where we have the chats screen here, besides the tab bar icon, I also want to do the tab or header right, and this header right we will specify that we want to render this and typo icon. And typo should also be imported. Let's go ahead and import it. And just like that, at the right of the chats, we have this icon for the new message. And it's gonna be only on this page. If I go here, it's not there anymore. Perfect. So from the extra, when it comes to the navigation, we already imported the dummy component. Now with a safe area view, we need to wrap the input box. Well, let's go ahead and first of all, because we already imported the navigation, now we will properly handle the safe area view, not with this little hack. So let's go ahead and remove padding vertical from here. And if I do like that, we see that navigation component automatically takes care of the notches, so the headers are never below the notch. That's the same with the bottom tab navigator. As we can see here, they are properly displayed, they're not displayed under this unsafe area. However, whenever we don't have a bottom tab navigator, our screen goes all the way to the bottom, which makes it really difficult to work with this input box. So for that, we're going to use a safe area view around our input box to make sure that the input box is displayed in the safe area, basically not behind the notch. For that, let's go ahead and open our source components input box, and let's replace this view with a safe area view. For that, we will have to import it. Import safe area view from React Native. No, not from React Native. I think we have to import it from React Native. Wait a second, we installed the library. So let's check. React Native safe area context. React Native safe area context. Now, if I replace safe our root view of the input box with a safe area view, make sure it also replaces here, then we're gonna see something happened. Well, first of all, our input is no longer underneath the notch, but it also added some padding on the top. That's happening because safe area view will add padding to the top and the bottom equal to the size of a notch. The thing is that here for this component, we don't need anything to the top because we know that it's not going to be under the notch. So we can say that apply only to some edges, apply only to the bottom. And by doing that, safe area works, but only on the bottom of our view. And now we can safely display and see the input box. The next issue is already with Come on. The next issue is with the keyboard avoiding view, because before it was working perfectly, but now, as we can see, it's again below the keyboard. Even though we see that something is happening there, but it doesn't push enough. It doesn't push enough because let's open our screens, chat screen. Here we have a keyboard avoiding view. It doesn't push enough because we already have some additional padding on the top because of a navigation. So we have to provide another property to the keyboard avoiding view. Besides what we already have here, we will send another property called offset keyboard vertical offset. And this is going to be the offset that is equal to the distance between the top of the screen until the first React Native view. So we can play with some numbers. For example, I found that on iOS 60 is good, but on Android we need another value. So for that reason, I think we will add the keyboard avoiding offset depending on the platform, which is 60 on iOS and 90 on the Android. And this one should be looking good. Just doing like that. Now on iOS it's good, and we're gonna test it on Android really soon to see it. Whew, that was intense, and that is everything when it comes to navigation for our basic use case, but we also covered a lot of topics when it comes to navigation. We covered stack navigators, we covered how we can get started with navigators, then we covered how to move from one screen to another, how to send data, how to update the header, title, how to work with a tab bar navigator on the bottom, move through tabs, adjust the styles, the icons, also adjust the header components like additional icons if we have to, and more. So with that being said, we are done with this big task, and I can safely do git add, git commit. UI 7 navigation. Yes, we have it. Awesome. All right, so I think that's everything that I wanted to build today, but I see that we have more than 85 people live, which means that you are still interested in this build, and we are going to continue. We're going to continue with some additional features, and let me know what you would like to see. We're going to cover some features that we will also be able to implement like from the backend side, but interested in what ideas do you have, guys? If we look at our plan, let me come on here. Yeah, we have finished with the navigation, and that means that we have finished with the UI tasks. What I really want to do, and I think is going to be very important for us in the next step, is a page with all the context, or a page with all the users from that are in the application. So for that, we're gonna reuse some of the things that we have, but we still have to define that screen. So let's go ahead, and in the screens, let's create a new file for contacts screen.js, and here let's define the empty contact screen, and let's go ahead and right away add it to the navigation. This component will not be a part of a tab bar on the bottom, but it will be part of a root navigator similar to our chat. So let's do contacts here, and the screen will be the screen will be contacts screen like this. So let's do contact screen here. Now, whenever we press on this icon, we want to navigate to the contacts screen. Where do we render this item? Well, we render this item in the main tab navigator for our chats here in the header right. In the header right, if I'm not mistaken, we're gonna be able to get the navigation, but I think I'm mistaken because it's not here, the navigation object, but it's gonna be here for the option. Okay, the next step can be a bit confusing, but I'm gonna explain step by step. So the options, you can send two types of values to the option. One of them is an object, and another one is a function that returns an object like this. Why do we need a function that returns an object? Because this function, we can get the navigation component from here, and using this navigation component, we can do things like on press here, then do navigate to the contacts. And just like that, if I press on this one, I will be redirected to the contacts. If I go back, I am here. So that's why we can also provide a function that returns this object. And from here, we can get navigation, we can get route, and a lot of other important information. Okay, in the contacts, actually I don't have a lot of data for that, but you know what I'm gonna do? For the contacts page, I'm gonna reuse a lot of things that we have here in the chats. So in the assets, let me see, chats. These are all different users. I will use the same data, only the user part of them. And I will render them there. And at the end of the day, it's very similar to the chats screen. So let's take this flat list from here. Let's move it to the contact screen. Let's make sure to import a flat list here, or let's import everything like this. So now if I go to the contacts, it's going to be similar to this. But when we are talking about contacts, in that situation, there is no last message. So even though the component looks similar, we will get rid of some of this extra stuff. For that, let's duplicate our chat list item. I'm gonna copy paste. I'm gonna rename it to the contact list item. Contact list item. Contact list item. What do we have here? Let's open contact list item and remove things that we don't need. For example, we will not need the last message. We will not need the, we will not need the last message. For that reason, we will not need the subtitle text. Similar, we will not need this row. And we will not need this content. Like, it's gonna be simple. Yeah, we're gonna leave only the image and the name of the user. Let's go ahead and remove the styles that are basically container, image and name should be here. What else? For the data that we will receive, we will not receive a chat list item, and the component is not going to be called chat list item, it's going to be called contact list item. Let's export it properly at the bottom. The data is not going to be a chat, but it's going to be a user. And when we press on this, I don't know what happens. At the moment, nothing happens. Later on, we will implement starting a new conversation with that contact. For the image, where the URI will come directly from the user. For the name will come directly from the user. And I think that's everything. Now back in our contact screen, instead of rendering a chat list item, we should render a contact list item like this. And the data will be, because we are reusing the same chat's information, but here we need to specify a user. We're gonna do item.user. And if I press here, okay, we already see properly a list of users. You know what? For the users, I think I can leave the status. And that's gonna look very similar to how we had it in the chat list item. Yeah, basically a text box, why I'm copying it. So I can do here view style. I deleted, now I'm going back. Content. We need to import the view. We need to display here the user.status. We're gonna see if we will implement statuses, but that's good. For the content, we want, I don't think we need anything. But for the subtitle, we definitely need to render it with gray. Okay, just like that, we have it here. Content, name, username, and we need to adjust a bit the dummy data in the chats. For one of the users, I'm gonna add here a status. Status. And let's have a look if it will work. If I go here, yes, it works. But the content, what's happening there with the content? If I do background color red, why? Oh, the name is flex1. I don't need name flex1. Yeah, like that. And for the container, I can do align items center. Yes, like that. Looks much better. And with this, we have another page ready for the next tutorial, where we will implement everything in the backend side. Whew, that was great. Guys, if you have any questions, now is the time. Let me know. And if not, we're gonna meet everyone again next Friday at the same time. Join me live and we are gonna take this tutorial and implement the backend side. In the next week, we're gonna start by setting up AWS Amplify, implementing the authentication layer to let users sign up, create an account, manage their account, forget password, reset password, and all of the authentication features that an application needs. After that, we're gonna do design the database, create it using AWS, and then define our API that we will integrate with our application, and we will connect it with the user interface that we developed today. So next week, there will be no dummy data. We will connect with real backend. And by the end of the video next week, we're gonna all join the same chat and we will try to use it and chat together. Also, we're gonna cover in the next tutorial real-time data to power the real-time functionalities of a chat, because a chat application without real-time data is kind of pointless. And for that, we're going to use some interesting GraphQL subscriptions. But yeah, super excited about that one. Orison just came to say thank you for everything that learned from you. Can't stay. Thank you very much, Orison. Zion, very good idea. Can you implement swipe left? We're gonna probably, we can try to do a video specifically on animations and implement multiple micro animations, including swipe left and so on. Guys, that was it for the week. Thank you very much for being here till the end. If you enjoy this, make sure to subscribe to the channel and join our Discord channel to continue our conversation. I'm gonna wait till next week at the same time, and we're gonna finish this application with exciting backend features. Bye-bye.